All right, we're live, and hopefully everyone can hear us just fine. I think they should be able to. Hi, Sean.
Hey, what's up? What's good?
You got some music
Yeah,
going on in the background?
yeah,
What are you
yes.
listening to?
It's some Ninja Scroll NS beats, you know,
Word.
what I like about NS beats the most is the tag that's in there. There's somebody going NS beats,
That
and
sounds cool.
yeah, I don't know who that is, but I love her voice.
Hey, we want to tell people if you're here watching, please get involved in the chat to say hi or anything because that helps us and it also helps the channel. It helps, I hear, in the algorithms. So if you can get involved in the chat, at least say hi or I disagree or I don't disagree or anything at all while you're here. And certainly hit the like and please share. We're going to talk about a lot of stuff. And I think it's a lot of stuff that people will want to listen to and hear about and understand. So.
That's right. And what's up, everybody? Glad whoever's here, if anybody's here, I hope people are here, but how y'all doing? What's good? That's all we need. That's our little army.
Allegedly 5 people, yep. And all 5 of you, we appreciate you. If you don't want to chat, you're just totally averse to it, that's okay too. All right, I have a little note thing for myself. First, I wanted to mention, I did say I would do a video on the crypto things that I am doing. I won't make this last very long, but when I do that video, it's going to be a bit more involved because I am doing one part where it's not crypto, it's Forex. And I have a bot now that is my own bot. And I am setting it up to do trades for me. And I have to understand how to set it up. Hey, John Sparks, what's up? I have to set it up so that I know what I'm doing, so that it starts doing trades for me. And if I don't know what I'm doing, I don't want to put money into it and start trading real money if I don't understand it. So currently, I'm not going to make a video for that one yet because that's a lot to it. But otherwise, what I am doing is this one. Oh, I've been talking without a mic.
Oh, dang.
What I was trying to say, guys, is I put my money in here instead of a bank where I don't earn any interest. So if you're going to put money in something, you can earn 1.5% every day. The problem is they hold what you put in for 200 days. And if you don't like them holding your money where you can't withdraw it, so like I have $1,000 in there, they're going to hold that $1,000, but I earn 1.5% off of it every day, which is currently, I don't know, 10. It's going to be a little bit more than 10 today because I added some yesterday. The point is, lately it's been $10 a day. I can't withdraw the initial investment for 200 days, but I can withdraw every amount that I make every day. I can take out $10 every day if I want to. So you can see the payout says 424 and the balance is 10. That's because I've been pulling that out every time and I just leave it in a different wallet because I don't want what happened like COTP where I left all the money in there, trusted it, and then the next day it was gone. There's lots of people who are speculating that COTP will come back. That'll be great if it does, but I'm not here to give any false hope based on COTP. And sorry I muted myself, guys, but I just repeated everything I said. So thanks for being here. And again, as we get to talking, feel free to offer some information in the chat. That is really all the crypto stuff I'm recommending because I've been doing the Pegasus thing for a while now, and I think it's good because you can withdraw every single day. So if you want to do it, I'll send you a link. Let me know. And then as far as getting into your own bot stuff, that's going to be a little more complex. So back to you, Sean.
Okay. Back to me. Let's get into the show. Let's talk about what we got going on. There's a lot of things happening today. We had a couple more shootings. I heard one was in a summer camp. I don't know what you planned on doing first. I know you had a list down. We were upstairs earlier.
Yep. Our list says we're going to talk cops and pew pew regulations.
Okay, let's get on that. Let's first let me just address something because I did a show on my channel a couple days ago, and I talked about what the world is today, and um, part of that show I spoke about what you and I always talk about, how police, and I firmly believe that the new brown shirts that they had back in the days of the mustache dude are going to be the police. They're going to be the new brown shirts because of this order followers, and they just do whatever they're told to do.
Right.
So
Current law enforcement will just do what they're told, as we've seen with the masks.
exactly, and they don't care who they do it to. They don't care if it's an old person, young person, elderly person with disabilities, and they don't care. They'll tackle you and break your arm and laugh at it. And we've seen that. We've shown videos of that. So I just want to read a comment because I spoke about the police being those type of enforcers when the time comes. And I got a response from someone named Anna Camper, or Clamper, I think it is, Anna Clamper. And she says, I rebuke what you said about police. I am a police wife. And you putting all police in a category like that is not okay. It's a lie and it's wrong. Let me get your thoughts on that first, and then I'll speak on it.
It's easy to see that someone who is married to a cop, like my massage therapist is married to a cop, and she talks about how her husband does it all by the book, and everything he does is, up on the up and up. And he actually is not a cop anymore, but everything he did was on the up and up, and he doesn't like cops like that. And so I'm not going to argue with that. I'm fine. Maybe he did, but he was also probably pulling people over for tag lights being out. So anyone's going to say my son or my husband's a good cop. But what you and I have said is, let's say she says that, and her best friend or someone she knows gets pulled over by him, but that person is like us and doesn't want to ID because we haven't committed a crime and we haven't done anything wrong. Let's say you think you should show ID even if you cut someone off in traffic or you ran a red light. It's only a crime if there's a victim. Okay. Right. So let's say you think you should show ID for those things, fine. But let's say you've done absolutely nothing and you don't want to show your ID. How nice is this? What kind of good cop is he going to turn into when you don't show ID? And we have seen over and over again how angry cops get when you don't want to ID. They can't handle it. They can't stand it. So back to you.
Yep. And something that you said about by the book, I want to touch on that because if her husband or anybody's husband or wife who's a police officer does things by the book, does that mean that it's morally right just because it's by the book? Because can't the book be immoral? Can't the things that they do? Yes, it can be immoral. So just because they do it by the book don't mean it's right. They're just following orders. That's what we're saying. If you're doing it by the book, you're just following orders. If the book says pull somebody over because their tag light's out, you're following orders. You're doing it by the book, and it's not right. It's not moral for you to pull somebody over and give them a ticket and harass them and stop them from getting to their destination because a tag light's out or a brake light's out or a headlight's out. You didn't commit any type of crime. You have no suspicion of a crime, anything like that. It is immoral, period. So when we talk about police officers and them being arrogant, that's what they are. They're arrogant. They think that they're above you. They're called authorities. So they have authority over you. They believe that. They take that to heart. And when you buck them, when you go against them, it really gets them. I don't care how nice the person is in your house, if that's your husband or your wife. Let one of your friends that they don't know. Because if it's a friend of theirs that they know, they'll probably be nice. Oh, well, you're my mom's friend, so I'll be nice to you, type thing. You know how to take care of each other. But if it was somebody's mom's friend, they didn't know that it was their mom's friend, and they said the stuff that we say, and we don't say negative stuff. We don't say stuff that's derogatory. We just tell them that we don't have to show you our ID because there's no crime being committed.
but you're allowed to say something derogatory because that's your First Amendment right. And
that's true. Absolutely.
If it hurts their feelings, they're not supposed to give you a ticket or arrest you based on feelings. They're supposed to do it based on lawful procedure.
Absolutely.
And they constantly, I'm not saying go flip off police, but you can't, if you wanted to, it'd be your constitutional right to do so. But we have instances of police flipping off people. And then when they flip them off back, the police pulls them over, starts trying to give them a ticket, starts trying to do all these things. We know they're trained that their lives matter more. If no one saw it before, they certainly saw it with the Uvalde deal, that those cops didn't do anything. Well, they were probably told to stand down. By who? The people they serve. And all cops serve the same people. So if they're going to
they follow orders.
They follow orders to a T. And the people who want to back the blue, they don't understand that they say if you just follow the law, if you just would comply. But I don't have to comply with unlawful orders. It's just like when slavery was, to release a slave was illegal. That's an unlawful law to keep slaves. And if you wanted to release one, that'd be against the law, right? So it's amoral and unlawful to have slaves. And if you were to free one, you'd be breaking the law at that point. And so are you going to say, well, a person that freed a slave should suffer the consequences because they should have just obeyed the law? People don't think about that when they're saying the things that they're saying. They're not thinking beyond the fact that they think if you, and by the way, a guy didn't want to show ID that was just happened to be on the street, moved some cones, and the police officer said, did you move those cones? And the guy said no. So he lied. So what? Right? These are just words. He didn't want to tell the truth. He goes, well, I need to see your ID. Doesn't want an ID. Turns around to walk away, and the cop begins to grab him by the arms and tries to arrest him, but the cop and his partner are so obese and out of breath, they can't, they're grappling with the guy for like 25 minutes and can't get him cuffed. But the sad part is all the comments on that was like, oh, what a disgrace of a cop for being so out of shape. Instead of saying what a disgrace of a cop for violating that man's Fourth Amendment and First Amendment rights. Right.
And you touched on a couple of things there. Now, you can be derogatory. You can say whatever you want. You do have that right, a First Amendment right to do that. But my point is, we don't are the ones who escalate it. Just because we don't give them what they want. You know? So we're not coming at them as soon as they pull somebody over. And if they was to pull one of us over, we don't come at them and just say, you effing this and effing that cop and whatever. We're nice. We're cordial. And they escalate it because we say, oh, well, I don't have to give you my ID. Oh, yes, you do. Blah, blah, blah. And then they start, that's when the ego hits them. They start to escalate it. So, it's unfortunate that that's how it is, but that's what cops do. They escalate things. They bring stuff to another level so that they can get you in trouble. And it's just not right. And so I think that a lot of times when we say that all cops are bad, and they are. Because try it. Those of you out there who say that they're not, try it with a cop that you don't know. See what they do. Tell them you're not giving your ID because you don't have to. You're not obligated to give them your ID if you haven't committed any crime, you haven't done anything wrong. All you're doing is trying to get from point A to point B, and they are impeding your right to do that because of a tag light or a broken headlight or busted tail light, whatever the case may be. You haven't committed any crime, and now people will say, "Well, it's a law that you have to have this light on. It's a law that you have to have that." Yeah, okay. Does that mean that law is a moral law? Does that cop have to pull you over and take you and then run you through the ringer and give you tickets and give you fines and all that because of that? Is that morally right?
In fact, the Supreme Court overrules those laws by stating that we are supposed to be able to travel unmolested on the highways without being harassed by police. And it specifically says police. Their original job was supposed to be peace officers, right? So they're only supposed to get involved if there's danger to another human being or a victim, a crime, an actual crime, right? Because a crime means there's a perpetrator and a victim, an actual crime. You can talk victimless crimes, those aren't crimes. So let's say, you see like these guys in New York that just walk up and start beating women, and There's a couple of videos out there of that.
Yeah.
A peace officer is supposed to definitely get involved with that and break it up. And I wish citizens, I don't like the word citizens, but most people are denizens of the city. Citizens should be stopping it too, but instead they're just pulling out their cameras and recording it and doing nothing. Or yelling, saying, stop, stop. But that was originally what they're supposed to do, is be officers of peace. This other stuff came in, and now, sadly, the Supreme Court law has ruled that we don't have to be harassed by police, and yet the same Supreme Court law also ruled that police are not required, not the same law, the same Supreme Court ruled that police don't have to protect citizens. So you and I will not be calling 911 unless there's some kind of a medical emergency and somebody needs an ambulance. But as far as the cops, my neighbors just came up and said, oh, this is our buddy. He's going to be watching the house. So he's going to be in our house all weekend. Just wanted you to know who he was so that you wouldn't call the police, that he was a stranger. I said, I don't call police. I would never call police. You know what happens when you call police? There was an Indian man that was visiting his son, and he was walking down the street, just walking in the neighborhood, visiting his son, took a walk. Some person sitting in their house decided to call police, said he was looking in garages. The guy was just walking down the street, weight of all 90 pounds. They ended up tackling police, came up to him. He didn't understand English. They ended up tackling him to the ground, causing damage in his spinal cord that he became partially permanently paralyzed. And the police still have a job. They still have the job.
This guy's life is ruined.
And that's okay, because they investigated themselves and they found out they did nothing wrong.
That's something me and you talk about a lot too. Like, if we would ever get pulled over or something, we always talk about how we'll tell the cop we'll do our own investigation, and we'll come back and give you the conclusion when we're done.
If we get pulled over, we joke that we're going to say, oh, don't worry, officer. We've done our own internal investigation and we've discovered that nothing has been done wrong here, so we're going to be on our way. Thank you, though, for your time. And
why can't we do that?
And these are not isolated incidents. That one I just mentioned, you guys, we went through several incidents, but every day there is a new video up by people like Lackluster, James Freeman, Brian Young, who does high impact flicks, but he does one called Here's the Deal. That's a cop version, or any of these auditors. And a lot of the auditors are going out and getting in. They're not interfering, but they're filming police just to see the results of how the police are going to react. But there are people who have plenty of videos that they send in to people like Lackluster and James Freeman that show that they've done nothing, and they're getting pulled over and they're getting harassed and sometimes killed, shot in the back of the head. People want to say, well, if he would have just complied, they wouldn't have had to shoot him in the back of the head. Is it necessary to shoot someone in the back of the head because they're not complying with your orders? And they say they believe you have to do what they tell you. And too many people are willing to do what they tell you to do when you don't have to. So they are used to being allowed to do say, you have to do this because I said so. I said so. And they try to make it now they try to get you and say, well, since you haven't showed ID, now you have to show ID for failure to show ID, but you have to have probable cause, reasonable articulable suspicion of a crime before I have to show ID. You can't make not showing ID the crime.
Right.
I could go on and on.
You have to. It's so crazy, and I think it's an important topic because we don't know our rights, and they don't know the rights either. They don't know the law. So they don't know it, and because they don't know it, they're only going off what they're told. They're going off what they're told by their superiors, which brings us back to order followers. So if their superiors tell them to do something, they're going to do it because they have to feed their families and they have to get home. The one song that I have called "The End Don't Justify the Means." There's a part in that song where I talk about how cops will write fake tickets. They'll pull you over for no reason. They'll do whatever they can. They'll drop drugs in your car because they got to feed their families. They got to meet a certain quota of things. So that's how they make their money. They make extra money doing this stuff. So they'll do whatever they got to do, and they'll justify it by, well, I had to feed my kids. I had to pay my bills.
For instance, it might even be worse than that. Let's say they got to feed their kids and pay their bills, but let's say it's just a competition in the department to see who can get the most DUI busts in the month. Mm-hmm. That happened recently, and if anyone wants these videos, I will forward them to you. You can email me at ladyliberty@countermail.com, and I will send them to you. But I'll type it out. But this guy was not drinking while driving, and they pulled him over. I can't even remember what for. Something stupid. He had done nothing wrong. And at first he didn't want to show ID, so they get all uppity. So he finally shows ID and steps out of the car when they ask him to. They said, we want you to do a field sobriety test. And he says, no, you should not do a field sobriety test, even if you're sober, because they will find reasons why you messed up. There's 2 incidences. One where a kid decided to do the field sobriety test, and they said he failed because he's put his hands behind his back, which is a way to stand out of respect, especially in the military. Mm-hmm. He failed for having his hands behind his back. This guy chose not to do the field sobriety test, got handcuffed and arrested, taken down, and they drew his blood, and his blood came back 0.000. So then because they said, well, he's got to be on something. It's got to be something. Oh no, he blew first. He did blow down he wasn't going to do the sobriety test, but he blew in the thing. So they said, well, it is 0.000, but you're on something. So we need a blood draw. And all this stuff came back negative. And yet they held him arrested in cuffs for 3.5 hours. That guy didn't break the law. That guy didn't do anything. He didn't cut off traffic. I think he was changing lanes or something, and the officer didn't like how he was doing it and didn't want to show ID, so that set them off. But that officer and his department were having bets on who could get the most DUI busts that month.
And that's the type of thing that happens. That happens all the time. So think about that. Think about it's just crazy. It's just crazy. So this guy got held up for 3 hours, didn't have anything wrong with him, and the police will do that. They'll take you and they'll hold you and they'll come up with a trump up charges. And when you're doing the sobriety test, I've seen them do sobriety tests, and they tell you to recite the alphabet backwards. Who can do that?
Stuff that is almost
you can't
impossible
do that,
to
officer.
do.
You can't do that.
Now let's see you first, officer.
Yeah, you do that. So it's ridiculous. But our whole point is, I mean, you could say, people might say we're anti-police or whatever. I'm anti-immoral. I'm anti people doing people wrong. That's what I'm anti. And if the cops are doing people wrong, then I'm anti-cop, if that's what you want to call it. But if people are doing people wrong, then I'm going to speak on it and I'm going to go against it. Whether you're a police officer, whether you're the president of the United States, my boss, whoever you are, if you're doing something wrong to somebody, if you're doing people wrong, then I'm against you. And I expect the same if I'm doing somebody wrong. Check me too. That's how we keep each other strong and keep each other sharp.
Sean and I have talked about going and doing maybe some man on the street interviewing, and from a totally middle of the road viewpoint. Like I don't know that we would even try to do it like Brian, but it'd be interesting to just ask people questions. Like, what do you think about this? What do you think about that?
Right.
And it'd be maybe something I'm called to do in the future. I'm not sure yet. I started looking at mics and stuff today, because we also have, before we get to this, but I'll mention it, we also have a drag queen story hour coming up at our local zoo. I've already called and made my complaint. I've urged others to please call and say something. But then unfortunately they doubled down after all the calls and said we're still going to do it, even though there's all these hate calls. Even with all the hate calls, they're still going to do it. And so I want to have, maybe there'll be a chance to have conversations with people, but it'll be hard because we're going to have to be out on this public road. And if we go into the zoo, then we'll get kicked off for trespassing. But we wanted to talk about some of the pew regulations going on lately too. So I'm really going to start there.
Well, we can even tie all that in together, like because it's all about keeping people safe, right? And it's all about mental health, right? So let's talk about that. Let's talk about these regulations that they want to have with the firearms and stuff like that. And mental health is a big issue with this. They always talk about mental health. Is it healthy for somebody who's a schizophrenic to have a firearm? You could say, no, you shouldn't have it, or, but what about, is it healthy for a person who wants to have their thing cut off so they can be a woman? Is that healthy? Is that have anything with mental health? There's something wrong with somebody that wants this. They need serious help. And I don't think people are taking that part seriously. I think people are looking at the whole transgender part of this and the transsexual thing. This whole movement that is growing so intensely that everybody is embracing, that the whole world is taking in and saying, we want this. And let's accept this. This is great. It's confidence building in kids. It's not confidence building in kids. This is child abuse. This is child abuse. I mean, you sit there and you watch parents allow their kids. And I just did a show on this the other day. There's a TV show that, of course, Tyra Banks is, executive producer of it. But they're talking about kids coming out as drag queens and all this crazy stuff. But they're glorifying this stuff, and they're promoting it, and they're trying to get our kids. Don't y'all see this? They're trying to get our kids. And if we don't stand up and do something about it, they're going to get them. This is the whole plan. The bottom line is it mental abuse? If you have a kid, in that one video that I showed on my show the other day, it was a kid that was born a boy. I can't remember if he was born a boy or girl or whatever, but their parents said they could see he was in pain when he was an infant, that he was in the wrong body. They could see he was in pain.
That video was featured on Fox News.
Was that on Fox News? Yeah, that's the same. That was because if you go on my channel, you can see the actual show that is in. And then they talked about that. Yeah, they talked about that on Fox News. Yes, they did. So that's from the Tyra Banks show. That's from that show. And he was saying how what else was he saying? They were saying how he was in pain, and he told them when he was an infant that he was a girl inside of something. And I'm like, how? That doesn't make any sense. The baby couldn't even talk. But somehow the parents knew that it was supposed to be a girl. Well, I can't remember if it was a boy or a girl. It was whatever one it was.
It was a girl transitioning to a boy.
Transitioned to a boy, okay. Bottom line is, these parents should be held accountable for this. If any kid comes to you, in my opinion, if any kid comes to you with these type of concerns, you need to sit down and have a talk with them.
Yeah, I want to get back to the firearm stuff for just a minute because
But I didn't want to. Yeah, I'm about to get off of that. But go ahead. You're good.
People give me the excuse. Well, maybe it should be some laws for firearms, and that'd be a good on the street kind of question. Like, what amount of regulation do you think there needs to be? Now, just so it's clear to you guys, and I'm not speaking for Sean necessarily, but I think he believes the same, and he'll tell you if he doesn't. I don't think there should be any law on any gun anywhere, anytime, because the Second Amendment says shall not be infringed. Mm-hmm. And the militia is the people. So people want to argue, well, that's a formed militia. Well, the militia are the people. Instead of calling them citizens, they call them the militia. They're not the government. They're right. The people, the militia. So unfortunately, the militia has become compared with white supremacist bulls.
Yes, definitely.
So we had Matthew McConaughey go on recently and say a whole lot about what he thinks as a responsible gun owner is what he called himself. And he had a lot to say, and I'm sure everybody watched it, so I'm not going to recap, but he's up there pounding the desk and getting real, sad and a lot of fakeness. But if you don't mind, I'm going to run through a quick thread of a conversation, because this is how people think. These are people on the right. There are people on the left. And I want people to realize it's the left and the right that are the problem. In fact, Brian did a good job talking to a lady, and she was saying, we need to vote for the right people. So then he got her to say, do you trust government? No, I don't trust government. So then why are you trying to vote for people you don't trust?
Who's the right people, right? Who's the right people then?
I'm going to share this screen real quick. Yeah, good, that came up. Now, the reason I'm showing this person's name, a lot of people blurt it out, but this is on a public space on Facebook, and I don't think your guys are going to go traumatize her or anything. I think I said enough. There's nothing much more to say to this woman. But what she says is, what was wrong with what he said? It wasn't anything radical, talking about Matthew McConaughey. It wasn't radical, she said. But did he not talk about gun regulations? He talked about gun regulations, right, Sean?
Yeah, that's radical.
Isn't that pretty radical?
Yes.
John Sparks says he should stop making movies that glorify violence, right? I mean, anyone can agree with that.
Right, and music.
She says he's a gun owner, for God's sake, and a Texan, a Uvalde Texan, which, I mean, what are the chances that he really was born in Uvalde? And if he was, that's probably why they had the shooting there. They had this all planned from the get-go, I think. That's just an opinion. I could be wrong, YouTube. A Uvalde Texan who actually took the time to talk to victims' families, to give them a voice. He's giving the families a voice somehow by getting up here and talking about his desire for regulation. I just watched that speech, she says. What was wrong with it? So my response was, you must not be familiar with our Bill of Rights. And she says, I am very familiar with our Bill of Rights, and I am very pro-gun ownership. She doesn't sound like she's pro-gun ownership at all when she thinks Matthew McConaughey is saying good things. I mean, I don't feel like we watch the same guy.
Right.
However, with every right comes certain responsibilities. Is that so? Is that true, Sean?
And if there are, who's responsible for holding up those responsibilities? Is it the government? Is the government responsible for making me responsible? Or am I responsible for my own actions?
So she's right. There is responsibility. But really, the word responsibilities is wrong. What there actually is consequences.
Right. There's consequences. And if I have a gun and I do something with it, I have to pay the consequences, whether I get caught or not. But eventually, God's going to deal with me. I'm going to get dealt with. And when I want to touch real quick, I'm going to let you jump back into that real quick. I'm sorry. I just have to say this. When you talked about the Bill of Rights and the Second Amendment and all that stuff, we can go take it one step further. We just have a God-given right to carry. We have a God-given right to protect ourselves. I don't need man's permission to protect myself. No matter how I want to do it, it could be by knife, gun, crowbar, whatever I want to use to protect myself and my family. That's my right given by God to do that.
I was going to see, these are just screenshots, so I can't, I can't actually scroll. I lost it. I have so many things up. Hang on just a second. I got to get some things out of the way. There it is. Okay. I can't click see more to show you guys, but what's really funny is she goes on to say that how she's very pro-guns and every right comes with certain responsibilities. And this was, to me, the best thing she could have said. Gun ownership should be regulated as owning a car. Like a license.
I remember you told me about this. she walked right into that one.
We need a license. Okay. So I said owning a car is not necessary to be regulated either. I'm a sovereign person, not a denizen of the city, aka slave. But even if I go by Supreme Court ruling, I'm not required to register my car, carry a driver's license, nor insurance, etc.
That's right.
And then a lot of other people said she probably isn't pro-gun. She doesn't sound like it. There's a lot of people that didn't agree with her. But then her response to me was, so then drive without a license or registration or insurance and see where that takes you. Which I was like, great, I have a response to this too. Normally I don't respond so often, but everything she said, I'm like, yes, you're right. I will do that and do that. I'm glad that you are a sovereign person. Good for you. But you live in a state that is governed by laws. I don't like it either, but that's reality. Realize that the Supreme Court has overruled any state laws that the Supreme Court...
laws of the land.
So they try to do this. Cops pull you over and they say, well, in this state, we have what do they say?
In Montana or in this state, you have to have a driver's license.
Yeah, they try to say you have to show ID. This is a show ID state.
That's the Supreme Court, but in this state, you have to... No, the Supreme Court overrules all the states.
Yes, and the Supreme Court even says it. I have all those Supreme Court documents. If anybody wants them, email me at ladyliberty@countermail.com and I can lead you to where you can find that stuff. Oops, I have that in the way. Didn't realize. Sorry. Okay, and then I said, I do drive without a license, insurance, and driver's license. Now, this is partially true. I drive the bus without insurance and plates, and I don't always carry a driver's license. And in fact, most of the time I don't. But my car that I have now does have plates and insurance. And people say, well, that means you've given up and you've waived your rights. I haven't waived my rights. And I may have waived my rights to the ownership of that vehicle because I did give plates, so I no longer own it. The government does. I gave up some rights with the insurance because I don't have to carry it, but I have to if I want to keep the car because I took out a small loan. So if I want to keep it, I need to have the insurance. Yeah, I gave it back up to the state by having the license plate, but once I have paid off the small loan I have on it, I don't have to have those things anymore.
And here's the point to that. That's the reason you have to do those things is because you don't own that car yet. It's not yours. It's the bank's. So the bank is saying, if you want to, we'll let you drive our car, but you have to do this in order to drive it. Once you're finished paying off this, it's yours. You don't have to do that anymore. But because the bank owns it, they require it, not you. This isn't because you wanted to. It's because the bank is telling you to do it in order to drive their car.
And so I said the Supreme Court also ruled that no state is above Supreme Court law. And I did some ad hominems, but I would say this to somebody's face. I don't do stuff on the internet I wouldn't say in real life. I said, continue licking boots or admit that you have a lot to learn. But people won't admit it. And she says, good for you. So when you get pulled over, you can explain to them how much you hate licking boots. And I said, yes, I sure do. I finished off, I said, I have a lot more courage than you. The reason I said that is because all glory to God that I have been learning this stuff, that I have been practicing it, and it's exercising the right. And I'm doing it for people like her who couldn't care less. I'm doing it for people who don't believe what I believe, and yet I'm trying to help her and you and everybody else by exercising my rights and teaching other people. I said to her, I would be happy to show you, teach you, and she didn't like that. She thought it was offensive or something. But she says, sure you do. Liquid courage, I'm sure. And so she's accusing me of drinking alcohol in order to be able to talk to police.
Liquid courage. You had some cool sandwiches.
And one thing she's right about is she said, I'm sure the cops are laughing their butts off as they're writing your ticket. They do. They do laugh. So she's right about cops laugh. We're laughing at me when they write my tickets for this stuff. But what can I do about that? Anyway, I think I did one more thing. I said to her, what did I say? I said, you don't take any of this seriously, and that has me worried for you. And I said this sincerely. I wasn't, I worry for people who talk like this, who respond like this. And, yeah, thanks, John. But as you know, it's liquid courage. I mean, can you imagine? I'm like, okay, Sean, I'm going to go out and mess with cops tonight. But first, I got to pound this 40.
Okay, babe, go ahead.
First, I got to get drunk. I can't do it if I don't get drunk. Okay, anyway, I said, you don't take any of this seriously, and that has me worried. I'd be happy to give you my phone number, though, and I can help educate you on your rights and law. If only people would admit they're inadequate and ignorant more often. Now, that's not a slur, because I'm ignorant about a lot of things. I'm ignorant on welding. I don't know how to weld. I'm ignorant on a lot of scripture in the Bible because I don't memorize it like other people do. I'm ignorant on how to rebuild a car engine. Those are things I'm ignorant to. I don't know how to do those things. I don't know them. So I am inadequate as well. I said, you should consider joining law enforcement. You'd make a good bootlicker already. They'd love to have you at their front desk, I'm sure. Enjoy your last word. I plan to make a video from this thread. Great content, as I have done. And that's where I quit, because I didn't see the point in that conversation anymore. She wasn't going to accept any learning. And we call it bootlicking because that's exactly what they'll do. They'll do whatever the cops tell them, down to licking their boots. And we've seen that with some of the black on white crime or black on Asian crime, where they're telling people, get down and lick my boots, and people are doing it.
Yeah.
How's that going to go for the world?
Absolutely bananas, this whole thing. That was a great content, though, which is just the interaction tells a lot. This is the type of stuff we can do, like you were saying, if we go out on the street. These are the type of things we can do. Come at them. We're not trying to troll people. We just want to get your thoughts on certain things, and then we can bring them to you guys, and you guys can see how crazy this world is. That's all we want to do is expose the thought process of people, because this is just showing everybody where we're going, because people's thought process is what's leading us down this path. They got people thinking certain ways so that they're mind controlled basically to go down a path that they want them to go, and they're making them think these thoughts and making them think this way. And it's people like us and you guys in the chat that are trying to wake up the people and say, stop following that, because that's the wrong way to go. And if you're following that, you're going down the wrong path. That's going to lead us to another subject. But go ahead. I don't know if you got something else to say on that.
Yeah, on the 22nd, which is next week, a Wednesday, there's that zoo drag show that we're going to do, and I will record whatever I can. If I can get into a conversation with anybody, I don't have a mic for that, but I'll try to get close enough to them to have that conversation so people can hear. And I will try to have it, I'm learning how to smile and be, not on the defense, but just with a level head. And if people start to get angry, I'll leave the conversation, but we'll see how it goes. So I will have a recording, and it'll either be really, really interesting or really, really boring. But my hope is somebody said, oh, this is just a waste of your time to go out there. And most protests are a waste, but you can say why you feel that way. This protest, though, if I can just change one person's mind about allowing their children to get involved with this, it'll be worth it to me.
All right, now see, there's a difference when we talk about protests. There's two different types of protests. There's a protest local, like we're doing here, a local protest where we can band together as a city to keep certain things out of the city. That can happen. But when you're talking about protesting the NRA and stuff like that and changing different laws, that's not going to happen. So these type of protests, yeah, we can change one person's mind, which is great, and we can maybe encourage, stop these types of things from coming into our cities. Like we saw with the Black Lives Matter mob when they were going through certain cities, and it was certain cities in I think in Florida, and maybe I can't remember the other cities, but a bunch of the people in town got together with their guns and they stood on the street. And when the Black Lives Matter people came down there, they saw them people there. They said, "Oh, we can't go there because they ready to shut. They gonna fight back." So that's a different type of protest. So we could protest this, and the zoo can be like, "Oh, it's too many people out here protesting. We're not gonna let this happen again. We can't let these people come back." That can create change at the local level, but it's totally different when you're trying to protest the president of the United States, who's at the stroke of a pen is just going to write some mandate and it's going to make it law regardless of how many people you're standing out there. So there's a difference when I say protesting doesn't make a difference. If at the local level, like we always talk about, you can change certain things at the local level, but when you're looking at it this way in the federal level, certain things are not. You're just not.
You can definitely get involved in city council stuff. James Freeman and others have been heavily involved with a town called Mountain Air, I think in Colorado. And there was an Officer Woodard who was just out of control. And Mayor Pietro was not going to do anything about it. And people kept showing up to these city council meetings. They kept showing up, kept filing complaints. And then you have people with big channels like James and Freeman who were doing a lot of exposure, so they were getting a lot of calls. That people watch those shows. They call those police stations. And I'm hoping, I sent my video into James Freeman and he did subscribe to my channel, so I'm hoping that's an indication that he's going to put my video up with my encounter with the police. So that'd be cool. But if not, I'm not. He's not a celebrity. He's just another guy doing things that we're trying to do, and he's just on he's on fast track there because I'm not as far along as he is. But anyway, he went to city council. Many people went to city council, and him doing the videos has they've finally gotten rid of this Woodard guy who is just, he was just horrible. I mean, the things he was doing to people, he pushed an old woman over to get into her house, claiming he knew about a warrant, was able to find the warrant because the person was driving erratically as a traffic stop, but it wasn't a traffic stop. The person was in their driveway. And then he had he was at another house and he broke into their house and tore a woman's shirt to move her out of the way. And the original police officer at that situation was de-escalating, and this cop comes in and just escalates everything. Just makes a buffoonery. He tased a guy for no reason. There's lots of video on this. This isn't just me throwing out hearsay. So you should always record the police. If you're going to get pulled over and you're going to try to do what we say and say, I don't want an ID because I didn't do anything, record them, because you want to prove to people how they respond. They're going to respond with anger. They're going to respond with an ego. The guy that I recorded, if you haven't watched my video, it's just back a couple videos, and it's not live, it's an uploaded video of how the cop reacted. He called for backup as soon as I wouldn't ID. And people tried to say, well, they have to. It's protocol because you're a woman. I said, then why did he wait until I wouldn't ID to call for backup?
Number one. Number two, why didn't a female officer come out?
His backup was another male.
So a couple of things I want to touch on as well. Like I want to go back to the local level protesting. What you hope to accomplish when you protest at the local level is that it will catch fire and reach to the hires. You know, it goes to the mayors, and then from the mayors to your congressmen and governors, and it goes up. That is one way to create change. If these things can, you know, catch fire and move up to the upper levels. That's very rare that happens. Now, when you look at protests like they had at the WTO, World Trade Organization, back in Seattle in the 90s, this is where all these protest laws came up with the 2-mile zones and all this stuff. Those type of protests don't make any change. We've seen, how many protests have we seen around, you know, the last few years? Not just the George Floyd things, but I mean, because there were some. We're not
talking the mostly peaceful protests. We're talking legitimate protests.
We're talking legitimate. There was some legitimate protests though during that George Floyd thing. There were legitimate ones, but that's not going to change anything because they already have an agenda set, and that agenda is going to go through no matter how many protests you have. You had the January 6th thing happening. That didn't change anything. Nothing's going to change when these upper level presidents and people that are involved in these things have this agenda set. That's what it's going to be. You can and sometimes the protest is part of the agenda. You know, sometimes that's what's the reaction. They want to see the reaction so they can give you the solution. That's part of the Hegelian dialectic. They want to create this problem so that you can't go and protest, so they can say, okay, here's the solution. So it's pretty tricky, but like we're saying, what we're doing out here and at the zoo out here is we don't want this in our city, and we're going to express our concerns. We don't bring this here. Don't bring this to the zoo that we come to.
Right.
And they talk about hate. Does hate go on both sides of the foot?
Sure does.
It should, because they hate us. They don't like that we're going to come out there and go against them. And we don't hate them, number one. We just don't like what they're doing. If you want to do what you're doing, you want to have drag queen story hour in your own living room, go ahead and do that in your own living room. You can invite all your uncles, aunts, nieces, and nephews, and all the people over there. Y'all can do that in your own living room. You can do that at your own place. But don't try to force it on us. That's what we're, and how many times have you heard, I'm sure you've heard it, and I know I have, being called a Bible thumper and trying to drive God into people's heads and all that stuff. What are they doing to us? That's what they're doing. We're not doing that. I'll come on here and on my network and I'll pray and I'll say what I got to say and I ask y'all to come get Jesus in your hearts and all that stuff. But I'm not going to force you. I'm not trying to indoctrinate you and that. But that's what they're doing. They're bringing it into our schools without me knowing. They're putting it into the books in the libraries without us knowing. And they're trying to sneak this stuff in, and they're trying to indoctrinate our kids. And instead of, if look, let it happen. If that's what they want to do, that's what they want to do. But don't try to force it on us. Just because you want to be a certain way, don't try to force us to like it. Don't try to force us to accept it. We don't have to accept it. And if we don't accept it, it don't mean we hate you.
Right, which is a good segue into a response. I asked some friends that if they come out with me and not one of them said they would, but one of them said, oh yeah, I saw that, that's sad. But another one said, oh Aaron, I love where your heart is, but I have a nephew who's gay, and I love him so much that I just can't get involved with that. She said, hate the sinner, not the sin. So I don't know if she was trying to change my mind about how I felt about this drag queen story hour, but I didn't respond, and I said, to be clear, I don't hate gay people. I hate when people want to groom children. I do hate that.
That's right.
So I don't hate gay people. I don't hate trans people. I don't hate people.
Anybody.
I hate when people want to groom children, though. So, how many people don't understand the amount of pedophiles or that kind of thinking is out there. It's more so than before because there are now kink groups and websites, and a lot of those new, I'm sorry to get explicit on you guys for a minute, but there's a lot of groups in there that come together because they have the fetish of pretending they're little children or that they like to be with little children. And that is something that is becoming popular. These kink websites where people can come together with their kinky fantasies, and if they want to meet up and have, they have parties, fetish parties and stuff, and start living out these kinky lifestyles. Well, what's to really what they want is it to be legal. They definitely want it to be legal to be able to do the things that they want to do. So they're going under the umbrella of the LGBTQ. So I'm not saying a gay person is a pedophile or a trans person is a pedophile. Unfortunately, there are higher percentages of them are. Higher percentages of them commit suicide. Those are statistics, not hate. Those are just statistics that a higher percentage of them are. There's higher percentage of rape. And when a gay person, a high percentage of gay people have been raped or had some kind of sexual situation at far too young of an age, whether it's with another child or an adult. And I want that to be clear that we understand that there's trauma in those people's lives that has to be addressed, that we love them and we want to help them with the trauma, but they're having an identity crisis. They don't know who they are. And you might as well applaud them for going and taking heroin and shoving it into their veins. By applauding them on this dangerous lifestyle, it's just as dangerous as applauding a heroin addict or a meth addict.
Yep.
Meth and heroin might work a little faster, or it might not because of the suicide rate. And if this was such a happy change for them, why are they so suicidal and the amount of depression they talk about? So we want to bring them out of that and find Jesus. And you wouldn't believe that the gay people who have found Jesus and have prayed to be attracted to the opposite sex have found that all they had was lust. It was lust. It wasn't love. They believed that they loved these partners, but they just lusted them. There wasn't they didn't understand love because they had never been loved in a lot of these situations. So you take what's called a non-discrimination order and you put it into effect, and now you can't do background checks on these people. And now that pedophiles are going to go, oh, that's great. Maybe they're not even gay, right? Maybe they like little girls and they're a man, or whatever. And they're going to say, well, I'm going to go become a drag queen story hour person. I get to be around kids, no questions asked. I'm going to go do drag shows for kids, no questions asked. You know what protest did help? That protest of that Dallas bar where people actually went there and confronted them. And what did they do? They ran away.
It was like cockroaches in the light.
That is exactly the best way to describe it. Yeah, you talk about that.
Yeah, it's like, it's just funny because when they know they're wrong. These people know that they're wrong for doing this. That's why when they're exposed, they get defensive, they get antsy, they start howling and screaming and cursing at you, and they run away because they've been exposed and they know they're wrong, and you shed light on what they're doing. This is why it's like that. Are you frozen? Oh.
Sorry, I got 2 texts and I want to make sure I read them while you were talking.
Oh, okay.
Because one of them needed a response. So.
No, I look like you was frozen over here. I'm like, did she freeze? But yeah, it definitely looks like you're frozen now. You did that on purpose.
Yes, I did.
But yeah, that's what it is. They're like cockroaches with the light being shined on them, and then they're scattering out. Oh, we got to get out of here. Oh no, we've been found out. That's just how it looks. But it's pretty crazy. You can make change And I hope, because I think I'm going out there with you. I don't know if I'm going to do any talking, but I'm definitely going out there with you guys. You know, I don't know what to say. It's just, here's a question. Here's a question I want to ask these drag queen story hour readers. Would you be reading these books if you weren't a drag queen to the kids? How come they don't
What's
do
the
it?
point?
What's the point? How come you're not reading books when you're not a drag queen to kids? Why you have to be dressed in drag? Why not just go there as a regular man and just read books and help kids learn how to read? Or is there another agenda? There's another agenda. Come on, y'all. Why would he be dressed up like that? You don't have to dress up like that to read the kids. Just go there and read the kids.
Okay.
But one more thing I want to say, and then we'll move on. If you do have somebody in your family that is homosexual or having these feelings, anything like that, we're not saying that we don't hate anybody. Neither one of us hate anybody. I just don't want it to be pushed on me or my kids or my family or anybody like that, and it shouldn't be, number one. Number two, if you do have somebody in your family like that and you are a believer in Christ, and you claim to be a believer in Christ, you should tell them that it's wrong. You can still love them, but the way you show them that you love them is by telling them that it's wrong and trying to help them get out of it. That's how you show your love for them. Because people, like your friend said, hate the sinner, hate the sin, not the sinner, and we shouldn't hate people, and I love him regardless of what. Well, if you love him, then you should be telling him that's the wrong thing to do. If he's smoking crack, are you going to say, oh, I love him, so I'm just going to allow him to smoke crack?
Right, same thing. Yeah, why would we applaud that when they're clear what they're going to that because of their lack of identity and understanding who they are. They're going to a place where people will say, hey, we're your friend, even though they're not. They're going around like-minded people. I mean,
let me. I said the same thing in my show, like you were just talking about. It's like being in a gang. Gang members will find somebody who has been ostracized from their own households, and we'll be your family. We'll take care of you. And the same thing in the cult. The cults do the same. It's the same.
Absolutely. Find the vulnerable person. Find the traumatized person.
Yep.
The Mormon Church loves that. They love to help the widow.
Yep.
And then bring her into the church. They'll move all her stuff for her, or help her do her garden, or help her fix her car, everything.
And then make we love you. We're your family. It's the same thing. It's all the same. So if you truly love somebody that is in that situation, you don't support it. You go against it and you try to help them get out of it. That's true love. I used to say this to my ex-woman's mom all the time because my ex-woman was a drug addict. And her mom was a drug addict right there with her. And both of them would be doing drugs. And I'm like, you shouldn't be encouraging. Number one, you the mom. You shouldn't be doing drugs. And if you're doing drugs, don't do it in front of her. And don't allow her to do it. Well, she's going to do what she wants, and I love her, and blah, blah. If you love her, then stop her. She's killing herself. If you love somebody that's doing something wrong, stop them. Tell them you shouldn't do it. That's love. That is true love. Going against what they want to do if what they want to do is wrong.
Especially wrong according to living scripturally. We want to always make that clear. Okay. I want to share my screen again and show you guys this. We're gonna get to the movies. We have 2 movie reviews to give. But first, before we do that, I wanted to mention that I did work in medicine for many years, and I did not work with HIV and AIDS compromised patients, but I did know a lot about the kind of diseases that they get and how bad they get. And me and Sean were talking the other day about herpes, and that when people who are immune deficient, like AIDS patients are, they get these outbreaks and they get them really, really bad. And herpes zoster is shingles, and it's already a very painful, I guess you'd call it infection, but I'm wondering if it's man-made, like a lot of these things that are from certain jabs. I think they really are. But anyway, this this one, I've had it twice. I've had herpes zoster twice in my young age. Once when I was 10 and another time in my 20s. Very odd. For me, it wasn't very bad, but I've seen it a lot. And I know it when I see it, you just know what it is. Well, this article is saying herpes infection may be linked to this, the snake bite, but here's why you shouldn't panic. We asked experts to break down the results of a small new study which found that herpes zoster, which is shingles, might be a side effect of getting snake bitten. A new study is getting plenty of attention after researchers linked a particular form of herpes to the jab in a handful of people. And it tries to say that the handful of people are people who already had autoimmune disease processes like rheumatoid arthritis, Sjogren's syndrome, and other connective diseases. And all of them were women. But they're saying it was mild in the majority of cases. I'd be curious how old these patients were, because it's often mild when you're young. Like when I told you I had it when I was 10, it was a few bumps on my side. When I had it when I was 20, it was a few bumps on my back and my side. But when you get old, it gets devastating for people. It's devastatingly painful. It can leave nerve damage. It can feel like a third-degree burn and the nerve damage can last forever. So to act like this is no big deal, they're not saying the ages of the women. They say it's easy to get freaked out when you hear the word herpes in the same sentence as that. I expected this, didn't I? I expected this was going to happen.
I was gonna let you finish before I talked on it. But go ahead. I'll finish. I'll see what I got to say when you're done.
Yeah. Experts say it's not shocking or surprising as it seems at first. And here's what you need to know. Well, why doesn't it shock them or surprise them? Because they know something that we don't. Herpes zoster is another word for shingles, an outbreak or rash of blisters on the skin. And what are they saying? There's this monkey disease going around.
Right. Because we talked about this, and I remember saying to you that I believe that the snake bite is going to be the real deal. Not the real 6-foot killer. The snake is coming from the snake bite. That's what we were saying.
There was no 6-foot killer to begin with.
There was no 6-foot killer to begin with. It was a way for them to get you the snake bite, so that the real 6-foot killer, which will be what you're talking about now.
We want you to know that it's the same virus that causes chicken pox, also called varicella zoster. But for the record, this is not the same as genital herpes or oral herpes. It is actually, and I'll tell you guys why. They are the same exact lesions. You get them exactly the same, but in different places. It depends on the nerves that are attacked. So when it comes to genital herpes, the nerves that get exposed to the virus, however they get exposed, whether it's a jab or whether it's sex. I'm not saying it's not sex, it could be. But it goes to those nerves that dwell in that area. And those nerves are going to be your way low lumbar down into what's called the cauda equina, the nerves at the bottom of, as your spinal column nerves branch out, they call it the cauda equina because that means horsetail. It looks like a horsetail. All the nerves start branching out at the bottom. And you get like your bigger ones that go down the back of your leg, like your sciatic, and the other ones that go around your legs, okay? So it attacks those nerve endings, and it's always on one side. Always on one side. So this is exactly the same as shingles, because shingles attacks a nerve, and it only happens on one side. It's just in a different area. Just in a different area. All right, so what are the symptoms? Burning, itching, numb, tingling, and it can be severe pain. Usually you can feel it coming on before it happens. You get an ache in that area, just a weird ache, like a sore muscle. People develop shingles after they've had previous chickenpox exposure. That's a lie. Chickenpox does not mean you're going to get shingles.
I'm so real quick. Can I touch on that? Because that's something that they push a lot. They push getting your shingles shot if you had the chicken pox. They push that.
And here they admit how these are the same. They say that it's a reactivation of chickenpox. Then if chickenpox goes over your whole body, how is it a reactivation to cause shingles when it only follows one nerve line?
Good point.
So after a few days, a rash of fluid-filled blisters will appear in one area of the body, and it most commonly shows up in a band called a dermatome. That's correct. It goes from one side of your midsection around your waistline. That can start from your back all the way to your front. You could have the these vesicles anywhere along that dermatome. It could be on your back or on your side or on your front or all the way around. The pain from shingles can vary. Some people mostly itch. Others can have pain from a gentle touch, and that pain can last forever. How can this cause herpes zoster? It's important to point out that the study didn't prove that it caused it. Instead, the study found a link. That's called causation, or that's called correlation. And even the study authors wrote that the association needs to be researched more. Okay, well, they made a big deal of that. It's either correlation or causation. Did you know that smoking is only correlated with cancer? It is not necessarily causing.
Causes it. Mm-hmm.
So they could just say there's a correlation. They didn't have to do all this, but they don't want. We're not saying it's doing that. And the connection isn't shocking doctors. People with autoimmune disorders that are on autoimmune suppressant medications are at higher risk of having this. Well, of course they are. But even healthy people can get shingles. And why is that? Because it's probably coming in germs.
Right. Yep.
There have been reports of these things causing shingles in the past. This can happen with the flu jab. Okay? So, how concerned should you be? Well, I'd say you should be darn concerned, because what we're going to start seeing, and I'm going to stop talking about this now, what we're going to start, about herpes, what we're going to start seeing is things like it, like AIDS. Yep. What you see in an AIDS victim. So what a person with AIDS gets is they get strange cancers, strange lung diseases, and they get herpes infections that are massive. They get HPV infections that are massive. HPV is anywhere from genital warts to just abnormal cells on a cervix. Okay, so they can have massive genital warts, massive herpes zoster, massive HSV type 1 and 2, which is oral and genital. They can have Kaposi's sarcoma, which is a cancer that you don't see in anybody else but an AIDS patient. They get odd lung diseases that are ultimately the pneumonias that kill them, that are only seen in HIV AIDS patients. So I think we're going to start seeing a lot of that. That's what we're going to start seeing. And that's why I brought this up, because this was just the first indication of, glory to God. But I called it, like you said, I called it because it's going to be depleting people's immune system.
Yep.
We can get into the CRISPR conversation later when we talk about Jurassic Park, but I don't think we're there yet with this jab. I think this one is just merely giving people
this
HIV and AIDS.
This one, and we both talked about this, and not just us, but others have talked about this before and spoke on this about how this is going to get people more snake bites, because now you're going to start seeing some real things. The first 6-foot killer, you couldn't see it. You didn't know if you had it or not. You might have had a cold and somebody told you had it, so you believed them.
Couldn't taste your food for a hot minute. Couldn't smell your husband's farts, so you probably had it. So now you're going to start actually seeing things. So if you believed the 6-foot killer that was floating around back then and didn't see anything or know nothing was really different, imagine the effects it's going to have on people when they start actually seeing things now. When they start seeing sores on them and shingle type issues and having all the issues that you just described. When they start seeing this, now it's really going to sink in. And people are really going to cry. It's a problem, reaction, solution. They're going to have this thing happen, and people are going to cry out to JoJo. JoJo, help us. And JoJo's ready. Oh, they already got the solution. Come on, y'all. They already got it. They're just waiting for you to ask for it. And you're going to ask for it. And they're going to give it to you. Well, we did something new for us. We went to see a movie that neither of us was terribly interested in, but I was pretty interested. And I've seen the original, so I'm kind of interested in going back and watching the original just for fun. But we went and saw a very patriotic military industrial complex promoting movie called dun, dun, dun,
what was it? Shoot, Maverick. Top Gun.
Yes, Top Gun Maverick. Yeah,
Let me say this. I never watched the first one. I did what we did. It was a good movie. I liked the movie for the entertainment value. We rarely go. Me and you sometimes we sit down and watch the movies. We haven't done it in a while because I've been working and stuff, and we've both been busy, with kids and all that. But we'll get back to that. Just sitting down together and watching movies like we used to. But sometimes you got to do that. Sometimes just to get away from all the stuff that we were always looking into, because we'll get so depressed and down. It's just too much sometimes. So you need to break away.
Funny part, real quick, one funny part, not part of the movie, one funny part about this movie is that Tom Hanks is supposed to be this patriotic military guy who obviously just takes orders from the government and doesn't own his own life and has given up all his rights. And yes, if you're in the military, you have given up all of your rights.
Yep.
And so he's, in real life though, in the shooting of this movie, they had a recording where he flipped out because people weren't wearing their masks. Like, he flipped out. They had a recording of him. So don't get it confused, guys. He's still a super leftist libtard.
I didn't know that. You saw that video?
I didn't see it. It was audio. And I realized it's either for Mission Impossible or Top Gun, where he was filming. Right. It was probably Mission Impossible. Well, I think it was actually. He was just freaking out that people weren't wearing their masks. Like, had a whole meltdown and yelling and screaming. And it was hilarious to listen to. We can find it sometime. Anyone can find it. You could just look up Tom Cruise tirade on set about masks, and that would probably pull up the audio. But it was very funny. I
understand. How do they shoot the rest? Because they don't have masks on in the movie. So, like,
it was all the people around, So while he's doing his part,
without his mask,
everybody else needs to be wearing masks. Jackie says she heard it.
Oh my goodness.
Hi, Jared. Glad you're here. Thanks for saying hi in the chat too. It does help. It does help to get some chat going, so we appreciate it.
That's funny. I wish I could. I'm gonna have to look it up and listen to that. But it's just funny seeing how they talk all this stuff. And I mean, rules for thee, not for me. It's just how it is. But yeah, the movie itself, I like the movie. Let's talk about it.
Well, what did you like about it?
Well, I liked it. I like the action parts of it. It has some funny parts in there. It has some funny parts in it. I didn't know too many of the characters because I didn't watch the first one, but I knew that Val Kilmer had something to do with the first one. So I think it's funny that did he die in real life or something?
Val Kilmer? That's a good question. Let's see. He might have recently. He was not doing well. I think he had cancer in real life. That's why he had his trouble speaking.
Yeah, that's what I wanted to talk about. I wanted to find that out first before I make fun of it.
No, he's still alive, but he did have. He talks about his cancer recovery, and he lost his speech pretty much because it was a throat cancer. But he's 62, and he looked better than I thought he was going to look. Really did.
Yeah, well, I thought it was funny that he got paid a whole bunch of money and he ain't say nothing. You know what I mean?
Hold on. Oh.
All right.
I've got the audio, so let me see. Can you hear this?
They're back here in Hollywood making movies right now because of us. Because they believe in us and what we're doing. I'm on the phone with every studio at night. Insurance companies. Producers. And they're looking at us and using us to make their movies. We are creating thousands of jobs. I don't ever want to see it again! Ever! And if you don't do it, you're fired. And I see you do it again, you're gone.
Oh!
Anyone on this crew does it. That's it! And you too, and you too, and you! Don't you ever do it again! That's it!
Oh.
No apologies. You can tell it to the people that are losing their homes because our industry is shut down. It's not going to put food on their table or pay for their college education. That's what I sleep with every night.
I feel like that's enough.
Yeah, I'm listening to him talk about how, putting food on the table, but you ready to fire people.
Yeah, I know.
What about them people?
Always hypocrites.
That's so funny. But I was just thinking about like the whole Val Kilmer thing, because he got paid tons of money and didn't say nothing. I'm like, this dude he getting paid. That's why I thought he was dead. I thought they meant just paying tribute to him or something.
No, Jared says he had to use CGI voice technology because he can no longer talk at all.
Okay.
So.
Well, look at that technology, CGI voice technology. My goodness! I showed you the picture of my friend. I showed you the picture of my friend Jared with that Sophia Android, right? Yeah, that's pretty disturbing stuff because, I mean, he's a believer, and I'm like, why are you? My other friend AJ was asking him the same question, like, what are you doing with that thing? What is that? Are you down with that technology now or what? Like, what is that? Anyway, let's get back to the movie.
Yeah, so it was just I won't spoil anything, but it's a pretty predictable movie. But you got Maverick, who's still single and everything, and he's got to go back into action he's going to teach these new Top Gun kids how to do some really high level, scary mission. Yeah. And of course the whole time I'm thinking it's probably like some innocent bystanders where women and children are going to be. But it's some uranium plant, of course, uranium, and that they got to take out.
Did it make you think at any time that they actually do these types of missions that we don't even know about? Because apparently that they didn't, nobody knew about this in our country. In the movie, they didn't know about it. Nobody knew about it.
Never, ever. Absolutely. They're doing stuff like this on a regular basis. And this is Navy, not Air Force or anything like that. So you do have Navy flights that they apparently call Top Gun. I think that's real. And then, they're the best of the best. But sure, they're absolutely always doing missions that we will never hear about.
Right. And I know this Navy stuff because I worked at a Navy base. And we made those cables that the planes would land on the aircraft cable, on the aircraft carriers. We made the cables that they would catch them, and that the jet, when they got pulled off the aircraft carrier, they would get catapulted off. They would have these cables on there that would drag the plane off along with the jet blast that would, take it off in the air. But yeah, I was just thinking about that. Like, I'm sure that they have these types of missions that we didn't know about. They're screwing around with somebody doing something, and you know what I'm saying? Stuff that they shouldn't be doing, messing with somebody, shouldn't be messing with, and getting us into something for democracy.
And maybe some of those things we shouldn't know about. And I don't know. I'm not a military person. I don't promote it, so I don't know. But it was a good show because it was fun, patriotic stuff and good love story. There's curse words, but not bad. There was never the F word.
No, I was really surprised.
There was no sex scene, for which I'm very glad for.
Right. I was surprised that it wasn't as much cursing as I thought it would be. It was, in some parts, were kind of cheesy. Like in the bar when he was singing that, whatever song he was singing.
Well, that singing comes from plays on the original. So anyone who's seen the original would understand why they were doing that.
I kind of figured that. Because it went on for too long, way too long. But let's talk about it. Let's talk about what we saw. Like, what are your thoughts on some of the things in the movie?
I didn't pick out. When we talk about Jurassic Park, there's so much.
Really good.
But I didn't pick out too much that was going on in Top Gun with like Illuminati type stuff. But there was definitely, being the military-industrial complex, that's one thing. There was a lot of pyramid triangle images, and you can tell about the gun shooting part.
No,
because you said you knew, you called it, and what was going to happen.
Well, it was just so funny because he was flying in a plane and they were shooting, in a dogfight up in the air with whoever they were going against, and they had a limited amount of bullets in the airplane, and they're shooting bullets. And when we first saw it, it was like 1,000 47 bullets or something like that, and he's shooting and firing and firing and firing and firing, and all of a sudden it gets jammed, and it stops on the number 33.
Of course it does. So even this patriotic military-industrial complex movie puts out their call sign for the number 33.
33, and it was just so funny because I'm sitting there while I'm watching the numbers roll off, and I'm saying to myself in my head, it's going to stop on 33, and it's exactly what it did. And me and Aaron both looked at each other, jumped up in our seats, and like started laughing, like look at that. It's just so. I mean, they don't even care anymore. It's like, here, we're going to show you again. When are you going to wake up and understand that we're trying to tell you something? That's what they're doing. The same thing with the gun regulations, with all these things they're saying. Did we talk about that? About the enough part? I don't think we did. About how they're triggering these people to say, you know, they're like holding us hostage right now. When I know I got off topic, but I have to say this: how they're like holding us hostage when it comes to our gun rights and stuff like that. And they're saying we're going to keep sending out these mind-controlled MK Ultra.
When will you decide it's enough? Because it's gonna keep happening until we decide it's enough.
It's going to keep happening because they're programming these people to do it. These MK Ultra, it's Born Identity all over again. There's all of these Manchurian candidates. This is real life stuff. These are real life people who have been brainwashed and had signals put into their head where they just say, they get a phone call, or they hear a message, or they hear a trigger word, and they go out and they just do these things. And they're sending them out there, and they're trying to get us to say, okay, we had enough. Problem, reaction, solution. It's the same game plan over and over and over. So that's all part of it. I know I wish we would brought it up back then, but at least we got it out. But the whole thing of 33, that's what made me think of that, was because they keep showing us stuff. They keep telling us. Here's 33 again. Here's 33 again. 33 of these. This man was 33 years old. There's 33 coal miners. There's 33 of this. You know what I'm saying?
Time I see somebody died and people are like, that's so tragic. I'm like, he's 33.
Yes. And the coal miners, there were 33 coal miners. Come on. Why? Why is everything 33? Anyway, I thought that the movie was pretty good. I thought that besides that, it was some, like you said, some triangle things and one eye symbolism that we may have seen. And I bet you we probably could find a lot more if we went back and looked at it again. With those eyes on, rather than the entertainment eyes, we looked at it with spiritual eyes. I'm pretty sure we both would find a lot more in it than we did the first time.
And sometimes we just watch for entertainment, but I can tell you, mostly that stuff stands out really obvious, and nothing stood out too much. There was just the 33 and the triangles, and the fact that he's a total social justice warrior in real life, and there's nothing patriotic about him. But other than that, I don't know that there's a lot to break down.
There wasn't even that much. Wasn't any woke stuff in there either. We talked about that.
There was not.
I thought it would be, but no, it wasn't.
Nope. However, we went and saw Jurassic Park yesterday, and while I like the Jurassic Park movies, there is a lot going on in these movies. But you start and then I'll go.
Well, we start off. I want to just talk about how the girl's mom was pregnant without any man involved. How she was immaculately.
Well, just so you guys know, there will be spoiler alerts. So if you have not seen Jurassic Park, I should have said that first. If you have not seen it, well, we haven't given much away. You don't know which girl we're talking about. But if you have not seen it and you don't want to hear this, that's probably what we're going to talk about for the rest of the show. So we love you, and we're not offended if you want to peace out on this part. So why don't we just the general? If you're not a Jurassic Park person, let's see how many Jurassic Parks there have been, because this was an argument yesterday with all of us. I thought there was 5.
Well, yeah, we never did look that up, did we?
So we've got there is 6. We've got Jurassic Park the original, Jurassic Park Lost World and Jurassic Park 3. And then they started with Jurassic World. Then they did another Jurassic World, and then this is the last Jurassic World. And in fact, I think it's the last Jurassic Park World movie they're going to do, because it got all the characters from the Jurassic Park and the Jurassic World all together in one final video. So Jurassic Park 3 and Jurassic World 3. What is that? 6.
And we're 33.
33. Yep. So yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, well, that part really blew my mind, because I never seen any of these Jurassic. I've seen maybe the first one. So, and right when I saw the first one, I think I was just waking up around there, maybe been awake. What year did that come out? Do you remember? Did it say on there?
Yeah, so 1993 for Jurassic Park. Lost World was 97, and Jurassic Park 3 was 2001.
So I wasn't nowhere near awake when I first saw that one. But I guess I started pointing out things when I was awake in that movie. Pointing out certain things about working with DNA and taking stuff from dinosaurs back in the day, which is a whole nother story and a whole other show we could do. And taking the chromosomes and stuff like that, and DNA from this dinosaur and the DNA and making dinosaurs all over again. So I watched that first one back then, but that was it. So seeing this one and seeing what happened at the end with the girl being pregnant by, herself, and the outcome of it was like, wow, I want you to talk more about it, because for me,
you're jumping to the end of the movie.
Just crazy.
Said you're jumping to the end of the movie.
Yeah, that's why I want you to go ahead, because I'm already there.
Yeah, so basically the premise of all the Jurassic Parks is DNA. They're playing with DNA and trying to create things that are allegedly extinct and existed millions of years ago or billions of years ago, supposedly. Mm-hmm. We all know that's a big lie. That's a part of the big lie. And
they kept pushing that a lot in the movie too. They pushed that a lot.
Mm-hmm. And the original book was by Michael Crichton, as World Bigfoot reminded us. And Michael Crichton has written other stories. I covered in the Black Goose stuff, which is a book called Prey. And so he's written interesting stuff. But the biggest premise of Jurassic Park is just because we can do it, should we? And so in the original, they built dinosaurs, made a park, and of course, just like any action movie, everything goes bad. You've got Ian Malcolm, the doctor, that says there's chaos theory, and his chaos theory says that chaos is more likely. I can't remember exactly. I didn't memorize it. The point is, but you've got these people that are involved, and they've got to get out alive, and they don't know a lot about dinosaurs except for what they think they know from archaeological digs. And so it's kind of like we're creating them to see how they really work in the real world, but of course they overtake. Now, in real life understanding, most dinosaurs were no bigger than chickens, which isn't surprising to hear that they had feathers, but they're still trying to portray that all dinosaurs are massive. I mean, they only make a few look small in these movies. Mm-hmm. But then they started Jurassic World with 2 new characters, and I can't remember their names, but who cares? And then they're now, they've redone it. They've done Jurassic World all over again, but you've always got the Asian guy in there that's doing all the DNA.
Wong.
Huh? BD Wong, yeah. And he's always doing the DNA stuff. And in the first Jurassic World, he's blending DNA between dinosaurs, and he makes a massive dinosaur that's like bigger and more deadlier than any. And then in the one after that, they created a dinosaur where you could put the laser pointer on him, and that dinosaur would come only after you. And they made a new creation too, some kind of like blend between the Velociraptor. Meanwhile, the guy in these movies can train velociraptors, but the big thing is the DNA thing. So we get to this final movie, and there's a biosyn company that's doing massive DNA changes on locusts, and they become oversized, and they start attacking all the crops except for what this company called Biosyn owns, which is like a Bill Gates. I mean, I could see this coming. They're already talking about the the DNA or the fake mosquitoes and all this other stuff. Well, they could DNA modify creatures to go after everybody else's farmland except for their own farmland. And so that was a DNA like locus in the air, in times type of, I think, nod.
Yeah.
And then obviously messing with DNA is an end times type of thing anyway. Yeah, he wrote Eaters of the Dead, which I thought was really good. I liked it. Anyway, different story though. And then the DNA, they made a clone. So there was a cloned human. And this cloned human, it turns out, as Sean was saying, was created and grown inside her own mother without needing a father. So there was no sperm needed, or if there was, they didn't explain that. They made it sound like it wasn't needed at all.
Right.
And it turns out Blue, the velociraptor, also did the same thing. And so they wanted these two because it was this beautiful thing, because the mother had some kind of disease that she fixed in her daughter with DNA splicing. Okay?
Yep.
So that's why I called the title in here Crispr Salvation, or Crispr the Savior. Because they're trying to make us believe that going in and changing our DNA could save the world. It can cure cancer, rheumatoid arthritis, autoimmune diseases left and right. And so they do it by this. They let out all these terrible locusts that are annihilating the world, and everybody's just like freaking out. And what's his name? BD Wong gets to redeem himself because he's always just an irritating guy messing things up and all the other ones. So he gets to redeem himself. He's like, I can fix this if I can just understand how Charlotte made Maisie and her DNA fixing, and somehow by having Maisie he can figure that out, and he saves the world by restructuring their DNA, and it goes and it passes on a pathogen to the other locusts from their DNA change. So it's passing on a pathogen through a DNA modification that eradicates the bad part of them. And here we go. So DNA modification saves the world.
Yeah, it's like I was saying earlier, the very first one started it all off about the whole DNA thing and how they could, recreate different animals from supposedly millions and millions of years ago by finding their fossils and taking the DNA from their fossils and making them back again. So like I said, what got me the most was that at the end, I mean, there was a lot in there, like you just went through and you described, but the end about her saving the world, being a child that did not have a father, immaculate reception, And she comes out and she's the one who saves the world with her DNA. And it was just, it was just mind blowing how they just throwing this stuff right in our faces.
And I've done a lot on the third strand DNA, and if you haven't seen that, please go to my Black Goo videos and just watch some of that. Black Goo. But the queen at her, whatever they had, the Jubilee, they had a third stranded DNA looking spiral. It had 3 strands on it, 2 on one side and 1 on the other, on the ground, that lit up slowly from her, and then it went to a tree and lit up the tree. Like the tree of knowledge of good and evil. And the third strand DNA, and I'm like, I've been telling people about the third strand, but it's like people just go, no, it's just DNA modification, it's just CRISPR. I'm like, it's going to be much more than that. That's just the beginning. We're not there yet.
Well, that movie was very telling. They had a whole bunch of indoctrination in it, loaded with 350. They don't know how many millions of years. One minute they say is millions of years ago, and then it's 650 million years ago, and then 65 million years ago.
That's billions of years.
yeah. They said different times in that movie. That's what made me think of that. They said one time it was hundreds of millions of years ago, and then it was 65 millions of years ago. I'm like, well, what is it? How many millions of years is this? And why isn't it still happening? Are the years still going? How come we can't go back 10 years and find an animal that's almost developed into us yet, or to another creature? How come we don't see this anymore? Did it just stop this evolution?
They will try to create evolutionary methods now with the DNA modification. So that's kind of what this is. It's also telling us that they're going to create evolutionary methods with this, and that the evolution they want is man and machine.
Yep. And you nailed it. It's the man married with machine, iron mixed with clay. That's like the Bible speaks of.
Well, that's all I had.
Well, yeah, it was. Well, what do you think of the movie itself as far as entertainment?
I like the Jurassic Park and Jurassic World movies. So it was good, not as good as the first Jurassic World one. The second Jurassic World one was like stressful to me because my kids were young and the little girl was involved in it. So I was stressed out by it. But I enjoy it now. So I like the Jurassic World movies. I don't think this one was that good. I don't think there was as much story to it. Mm-hmm. But the original one I loved. I love the original Jurassic Park. Love it. So I'm a fan.
Wasn't Lawrence Fishburne or somebody in the first one?
No. No Lawrence
I know that there was a black guy.
Samuel L. Jackson was in it.
Samuel L. Jackson, yeah. I knew there was a black guy. Well, I like the first one. I don't remember if I saw the second one or not. Maybe I have. I mean, I could watch. They're not movies that I don't like. I just never watched them. You know, I just never did it. But I could watch them. If we wanted to sit down one time and watch them all with the kids, I would do that.
Yeah, my kids love the Jurassic Park movies.
Yeah, so I wouldn't mind if we sat down together with the kids and did that. Same thing with Mission Impossible. Not Mission Impossible. This one we just saw, Maverick.
Top Gun.
Yeah, Top Gun.
I was going to say there's a lot of Mission Impossibles, and I've never even seen one of them. So.
Well, I've seen the first. I've seen the one with Tom Cruise. They're pretty good. They're pretty good.
They're all with Tom Cruise, aren't they?
What is the original ones that are?
Oh, well, yeah. No, I mean all the... Anyway, there's a whole lot, and I've never seen one, so I'm not sure I'm going to go down the Mission Impossible road. But...
You won't do that with me? Okay, that's all right.
I can't be sure, but anyway, we're going to watch Idiocracy because Sean hasn't seen that yet, and we'll do a video on that.
Yeah, that ought to be interesting.
Well, any final thoughts or things you want to say before we close it up with the prayer?
No, I just want to thank everybody for coming out and listening and checking us out. And hopefully you guys will share these videos and like and subscribe if you haven't already. Also, go check out my YouTube channel, BE Music One at what is my? I don't know. Just look up Ninja Scroll. You'll find it. You'll see the logo. Well, you can. You'll find a lot of anime because I was named after the animation series and movie. All right. Well, yeah, just check it out. Check out my stuff over there. But just thank everybody for coming. Hope you guys like, subscribe, and share these videos and, get more involved with us. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Would you like to close us out in prayer, please?
Sure. Everybody, please bow your heads as we pray. Heavenly Father, thank you, Lord Jesus, for another day. Thank you for waking us up this morning, Lord. I'm so thankful for the time that we have here together that you've given us, Lord. I'm thankful that for Aaron and our relationship, our marriage, and this family that we have here, Lord. Lord, I ask you to continue to bless this ministry. Let it be for edification for others and for ourselves to learn more about you and about the world and the system that is coming in, Lord. And Lord, I ask that you would continue to bless everybody in the chat room and their families as well. Lord, I ask that you just can continue to bless everybody and keep us all strong in these times that we're in, Lord, and keep us all looking for you, our eyes set on you. And I'm just thankful for everything that you do for us, Lord. I ask that you would continue to, once again, bless those in the chat and their families and give them strength to get through anything that they have to go through, any issues that they have going on in their lives. Lord, I ask that you will give them the strength and the courage and the will to go through. And I'm just thankful, Lord. Thank you for everything that you do for us. In Jesus' name I pray, amen.
I do want to say one more thing. If you weren't here in the beginning, please go back and see our new intro. We have a new intro that we made. Sean's music and my film editing together as one. So we'd love for you to go back and just watch the first minute and a half of our intro and then leave comments. Please leave comments. Tell us what you think. And I know people don't want to listen to an hour and a half long show sometimes, but please share that. And thank you for the prayer, Sean. We appreciate that. And yes, please just go back and watch the first minute and a half, guys. We'd appreciate it. We want to see what you think of our bumper, aka intro. So that's it.
That's it. Thank you, guys. Love y'all.
We love you. All right, bye.
Peace. God bless.
If you have money, you can buy anything.
It's another day. The rich take money from the poor, dress them up in pink, make them all race for the cure. Drug companies have billions and want more. Got you running out to buy pink stuff from the store. Use the stories to play the emotional game, make you feel shame, all the heartache and pain. It's a scam. They use cancer patients' name, take the money as a donation to make gain. The cure already exists. No myth, think about it. You and I will go without it. You can't believe what the news may say, but I doubt it. Got you blinded. Your thought process is all clouded. Business as usual, money and wealth. They your companies, they don't care about your health. Need you sick to make more dough for themselves, raking in the cash every time a new drug sells. We got uppers, downers, antidepressants, drugs for seniors, and all kind of medicine. Psychotic drugs to suppress aggression. Even now drugs to relieve your stressing. Yes, we drug kids, I forgot to mention. In drug-free zones for hypertension or ADHD, whatever you call it. Legal drug kingpins, we always call it. We got the FDA and the CDC. WHO, all talk disease. Yeah. Hand in hand with big drug companies, drugging up the whole world with these. This is your brain, and this is your brain on drugs. Legalized, only different from the common street thugs. FDA approved, safe and secure. There's no bug side effects swept under the rug. Politicians in cahoots with the drug dealers. They getting paid to pass laws and cover up mistakes they made. They don't care if you end up hurt or in the grave. The results of the drugs they gave. Big money in the health system. They don't want to cure disease. Make medicine just to hold off the sneeze. They can cure the common cold if they want naturally, but they won't, cause it's all about greed and deed. We got uppers, downers, antidepressants, drugs for seniors, and all kind of medicine. Psychotic drugs to suppress aggression. Even now drugs to relieve your stressing. Yes, we drug kids, I forgot to mention. In drug-free zones for hypertension or ADHD, whatever you call it. Legal drug kingpins, we always call it. We got the FDA and the CDC. WHO, all talk disease. Hand in hand with big drug companies, drugging up the whole world with these. The big pharmaceutical companies got us hooked since babies with all their vaccines and flu shots, whooping cough vaccinations, steady flow of money from the zombie patients. We get drugs, fluoride throughout our water, every day coming up with some new disorder. In order to prescribe a drug, a fake fix that holds back the things that makes our brain stick. They get rich, they don't prevent from getting sick. Drug sales is how they keep their pockets thick. Big pharma and the alphabet, drug kingpins, only ones in the end that wins. It's a sin. We got uppers, downers, antidepressants, drugs for seniors, and all kind of medicine. Psychotic drugs to suppress aggression. Even now drugs to relieve your stressing. Yes, we drug kids, I forgot to mention. In drug-free zones for hypertension or ADHD, whatever you call it. Legal drug kingpins, we always call it. We got the FDA and the CDC. WHO, all talk disease. Hand in hand with big drug companies, drugging up the whole world.